Blueberry Track, Washington State University in Pullman, Washington. Bud Namick along with Dan O'Brien, Tom Feuer. It's Washington State, Washington, and the Idaho Vandals. Our first event to bring to you this afternoon, the women's 4x100 meter relay. Washington in lane 4, a young team. The Idaho Vandals in lane 5, and Dan O'Brien, a veteran Washington State team, in lane 6 on the outside.
Coach Sloan had them doing quite a few relay handoffs this week, even though the weather was bad. He wanted to make sure they could get that baton around. Last year, Eleni Richardson was on this team, and the good thing about having such good fit people here at Washington State is you can substitute when a man goes down. And this year they don't have Eleni. They got Atrina Higgins in there.
Eleni Richardson redshirting, the sophomore heptathlete out of Oregon. Sharika Higgins to run the leadoff left for Washington State. Jamara Smith, a freshman out of Oakland, California, for the Washington Huskies. And Higgins out to the quick start for Washington State. Good handoff.
LaTroya Mucker, not the fastest person on the team, but she really runs that back straight very well. Coach Sloan loves to see her barreling down the back straight.
Now Atrina Higgins ready to get the handoff and negotiate the turn for Washington State in the lead in 4x100 meter women's relay. Francesca Sewell set to run the anchor leg for Washington State. Sewell easily able to cruise into the finish line for Washington State. Unofficially 45-38 for the Washington State women as they win the 4x100 meter relay. More exciting action coming up. Beautiful spring afternoon for track and field competition on the Palouse. The Washington Huskies visit the Washington State Cougars and the Idaho Vandals. Double duels here at Blueberry Track in Pullman. Hello everyone, I'm Bud Namick along with Dan O'Brien. We'll have all the action as the Cougs and Huskies get together, and it's never any more fun than Cougs and Huskies.
Well, I think besides the Ducks, I don't think Coach Sloan would rather beat anybody else.
Let's talk about some outstanding athletes that we're going to be seeing here in competition today. And you start with Jawarren Hooker, the outstanding sprinter out of Ellensburg, Washington, for the Huskies. He'd like to be in Sydney later this summer.
Well, he really would be. I talked to him earlier today, and he wants my tie. This is my Olympic tie. And I said, you're going to have to earn that one on your own. But he's got Olympic qualifying marks already in the 100 meters and the 200 meters. And last week at Stanford, he ran 10:18. Outstanding time for this time of the season. He's just complimented by a very deep Husky men's team.
Husky team is coming off a couple of big dual wins over UCLA and California. For Washington State, let's talk about the women. 3 outstanding athletes have to redshirt due to injury this year, but still a very deep team.
A very deep team. They've already got very established sprint and hurdle crew, and they're gonna need a little help, and they're getting that help from Alicia Budabaugh. 2:05 last week at Stanford in a half mile. She's ranked number 2 in the nation this year already.
Idaho Vandals bring some outstanding athletes to the competition, but some questions as well.
Well, with Wayne Phipps and his interim head coach debut, he's really working on a lot of the strengths that Coach Mike Keller left in last year, and that's a very strong recruiting class. Their big gun, Tawanda Chiwira, is only going to run the 4x1 and the 4x4 today. Should be exciting.
Dan and I will be keeping an eye on the running events and keeping an eye on the field events for us. It's Tom Feuer. Tom?
Thank you, Bud. The story down here will be the big guys. Washington State senior Ian Waltz and Washington senior Ben Lindsay. It seems like they've been at these schools forever. In fact, they've competed against each other 30 times, and despite all of that competition, they are friends. And in fact, when their collegiate careers are over, they will be going to Tucson, Arizona to train with noted throws expert Mike Maynard. But the field stuff in the throws doesn't end here. We're also going to be joined by Idaho sophomore, a Dane, Joachim Olsen. Now, Olsen was 3rd at the NCAA outdoor shot put last year, improved to 2nd indoors this year behind Giannis Roberts of SMU. Now, Dan O'Brien tells me we've got a great win for the discus today. And keep in mind that last week, Auburn thrower Hungarian Gabor Mate broke the collegiate record throwing over 219 feet. So a lot to look forward to in the throws today. Back up to you, Bud.
And take a look at our dual meet scoring in the individual races. 5, 3, and 1 for first, second, and third. Relays 5 and 0s. Washington and Idaho. The men's 4x100 coming up next from Blueberry Track in Pullman. Men's 4x100 meter relay this afternoon from Mooberry Track in Pullman, and it should be an interesting matchup. Idaho with Tawanda Chawiri, got to keep an eye on him. Washington State in the middle. Guillermo Macias unable to go, so Alex Tinsley, who also plays on the Cougar football team, will run that third leg, and Washington with the great anchor, Jawarren Hooker.
Don't ever count Idaho out of any relay. Very talented when it comes to relays. They really train hard to go to the major relays, Mount Sac, Penn relays, things like that. So they're always seem to put together a very good relay team.
Tawanda Chawiri wondering what's going on. How come there's no start in this? He's got to be anxious, Danny. He hasn't had a whole lot of competition during the indoor season.
Yeah, he competed only once or twice, just unattached in the indoor season, and I saw him training out here on this track just the other day, just to get a little feel, and he looks good.
Look at Aaron Watkins for Washington State, junior out of San Jose, California.
Ran some striders with Aaron earlier in the week, and this guy's very talented, runs very easy. I was working hard to keep up.
Greg Forney to run the leadoff leg for the Washington Huskies on the outside. Early on in this meet, Washington State with the lead through a few of the field events. Good clean start. Watkins trying to make up a little bit of the offset. Handoff's pretty clean.
Here comes Idaho on the inside.
Errol Aguilera really moving down the track. As advertised, Mr. Chawiri motors around the corner. Good battle between the Cougs and the Huskies.
Jawarren's going to pull away for the important win in the dual meet against Washington State. But Idaho, that was a great relay for Idaho.
Idaho with some great acceleration in the second and third legs. Dan, before we jump to the replay, Jawarren Hooker had a little problem with the hamstring. It seemed to tighten up on him a little bit after a couple of good runs at Stanford last week. Look okay so far today?
I think so. I talked to him earlier today, and he said he just cramped a little bit after his 200 meters, but it wasn't going to be a problem today. I don't imagine we'll see quite the times that he ran last week because of the windy conditions, but he said no problem at all.
Good look at the acceleration of Jawarren Hooker as he was able to catch Anson Henry for Washington State and shut it down right at the finish line. Let's check in on the field events with Tom Pure.
Bud, thank you very much. We had some early field event action, and Molly Monroe from Washington State, who was fifth in the Pac-10 meet last year, she led from the start, and this is her last throw. And she gets it out to 152.2. She's been throwing mid-150s all year long, very consistent. Now, women's long jump. This is Agneta Rosenblad from Stockholm, Sweden, who has improved a great deal already earlier this year. She gets out to 19 feet, 11.5 inches on her first jump. It was wind-dated. It was very windy at this time of the day. You can see Coach Rick Sloan congratulating her. Now, former Pac-10 long jump champion, Francesca Sewell, who we're going to see a lot of today. We've already seen her in the relay. She bounds out to 19 feet, 9 3/4 on her last jump, and the Cougars get a second place. On her fourth round jump. And in the women's pole vault, this is Jeanette Martis, who went 12.5 1/2. You might remember last year in the snow, she went 12.7 1/2. Very consistent vaulter, and the Cougars win there. And we will be coming back with the men's 1,500 meters.
Welcome back to Newberry Track in Pullman. Fox Sports Net, the men's 1,500-meter run up next. Want to get to the NCAA, an automatic mark of 3 minutes, 41.5 seconds. And the guy who's come closest to that so far is Jeff Perry in lane 7, a senior for Washington out of Gig Harbor. Jason Fiant out of Meade High School in Spokane running for the UW in lane 1. Josh Muxon, there you see the rest of the field as we get going in the men's 1,500-meter run here with a bit of a breeze.
This is one of the events where Coach Sloan has asked his guys to step up and break up the sweep by the Washington Huskies. This is where Washington State really misses the expertise of Bernard Legat.
Talked to Rick Sloan about that earlier in the week. I said, how big of a difference does it make to the team not having Legat? He says, to the athletes, not much. To the coaches, a lot.
Yeah, we still see Bernard around here. He's training. He ran 3 indoor races, and he ran 3 indoor races this year and was undefeated in all 3.
Jeff Perry, the man with the best time coming in, and he's got an interesting combination. He's got one kind of neon pink shoe and one green shoe, matching them up a little bit.
That actually, but they're called the Jasari. They're a spike that you were mentioning for Bernard Legat, and those spikes were actually created for the Kenyan middle and long distance runners. And maybe Perry aspires to their kind of dominance in the middle distances, but definitely a unique look. Certainly Perry has the best leg speed of any of the competitors in this race, and it behooves him to have everybody else break the wind, because that wind down the home stretch is fairly considerable down here.
Perry continuing to lay back and get ready to make his move at the appropriate time.
He's just really letting the other guy in front of him do the work, and that's really what your distance running is all about. He moves to the outside and takes the lead here with just 2 laps to go.
Well, you know what's going to be important in this race, guys, is for Perry to get the points for his UW teammates, and that's what he's doing right now. He's not breaking away, and what he's trying to do is kind of bring along the other Washington runners, Fiant, Hill, and Russell, so that they can get some valuable team points, because he has the talent here to basically pull away at any time. And they've passed through now 800 in 2:07 and change. So you can see, and we're getting a little breakaway here.
Washington State with a couple of freshmen running in this one. Dan Boniface out of Seattle Prep. Mark Wicklander out of Tacoma. So a very young Cougar contingent in the distance races. And that's something that we're not used to seeing for Washington State, Dan.
No, and you're asking a lot of freshmen to really get up here and break it up. You see Dan Boniface working really hard in the back to not lose contact with that first group. It's really tough on a guy like that. You see the big gap there between the front running group and the second group. He's working hard, but you are asking a lot for a freshman to come up here and break up this sweep.
And now this is interesting, because you have John Russell, who's taken over from the lead from Perry. And actually Perry was grimacing, doesn't look all that good, but you see the strategy's working. Washington now has got all 3 of their kids in the top 3. And this is exactly what I think they wanted Perry to do, was to help set the pace here. But Russell actually now really has a commanding lead, and it's going to be interesting to see if Perry can close the gap. And maybe he doesn't care. I mean, the Huskies will have a 9-0 sweep here, so there's no reason to really work all that hard.
Russell with a best of 3, 48-37. Right now with a bit of an advantage over Perry, who looks like he's trying to put the hammer down and close that gap a bit.
Perry is definitely starting to stride out, and maybe his pride is going to get the better of him here, even though the Huskies are going to sweep, and he's going to come down the home stretch here and turn it on and win this race. But, you know, he did his job. He got the Huskies going 1, 2, 3, and that's exactly what they tried to get out of this race.
Sweep for the Dogs. So the 1,500 meters belongs to Washington. Idaho pick up a couple of points on Washington State as well. Take a look at some of the results from earlier action today in Pullman. Jeanette Martis with that 12-foot, 5.5-inch pole vault. That is actually a Newberry track record for a Washington State female athlete. Long jump. Netta Rosenblatt getting the win for Washington State, leading a Cougar sweep as the Washington State women were building an early lead. In the javelin, you saw Molly Monroe with the victory. Megan Spriesterbach from the University of Washington, #2. And in the hammer, B.J. Shade from Washington State tried to really uncork one at his final throw and was called for a foul. That left Jeff High as the winner with Tim Crater in third. We should have some great battles in the throws today with Ian Waltz and Ben Lindsay, Cougar Husky rivals and good friends. More action coming up when we come back to Newberry Track in Pullman, including the high hurdles.
Last call for the bench 100-meter hurdles report to the first step. First call for the bench 400. Okay.
Track and field action from Newberry Track in Pullman on Fox Sports Net. Bud Namick along with Dan O'Brien, and Tom Pure is checking the field events for us. Let's get an update from Tom.
Thanks, Bud. We had a terrific shot put competition earlier today. Shanna Ball, who has come out of nowhere. She's second in the country right now in the discus throw at 186 feet. Here she is in the third round in the shot put, and she gets it out using the spin technique, 48 feet, 2 3/4. As I say, she has just emerged on the national scene this year in a big way, and a lot more to look from her today, especially in that discus throw. Now, this is Cecilia Thomas of Washington, 6th in the Pac-10s in 1999, and she comes out in the very last round, takes the lead from Ball, and gets it out there 49 feet, 1 inch, a big come-through performance in the final round by Cecilia Thomas. And by the way, final round heroics also in the men's long jump. Now you're seeing decathlete Jacob Predmore. This was early. We're going to see him in a number of events today. He gets out there and jumps 23.10 and kind of lays the mark down for the rest of the field. And it took 5 rounds before we had any real action. And finally, he ends up in third place, as you can see. This is Demetrius Murray, the communications major who was second in the Pac-10 in 1999. And Murray is worried there because he wants to make sure that he has got the win. He ends up taking it. It was slightly wind-aided. Had it been legal, it would have been a personal best. And he looks at the mark, and it's the winning mark, 24.2.5. Again, slightly wind-aided at 2.3 meters per second. Okay, and this is Francesca Sewell, event number 3 today, and she goes 5.8 3/4. She was 5th in the Pac-10s last year, You saw her earlier today in the long jump. She finished second. She anchored the 4x100 meter relay. Altogether a great day. Now this is Justin Sinclair. He was the top American in the Pac-10s last year in the javelin throw. Finished third in the Pac-10s, and then he got out to 230 feet 1 inch in the javelin today.
All right, Tom, thank you much. We have had a delay in the start of the women's 100-meter hurdles, problems with the electronic timing. We'll talk to Dan about that in terms of just exactly what that does to you. The runners to watch here: Randy Smith for Washington State in lane 4 and Agneta Rosenblatt for Washington State in lane 7. Just 2/100ths of a second apart in their best times, 13.72 to 13.74. Dan, the delay, about a half hour. How difficult is that to handle mentally?
Well, it really hurts your warm-up. You have a certain time you're getting warmed up for, and it just hurts your preparation time.
Had a clean start. Randy Smith off fine in lane 4, and she's the leader with Rosenblatt. And it'll be Smith and Rosenblatt as advertised. And a difference about exactly the same as their times coming in.
An incredibly important race for third place there. You saw Trina Higgins in lane 1, and they're trying to lean in to get the sweep.
And we'll have to wait and see if she did officially get that. We'll get a chance to take a look at this race one more time. There's Randy Smith striding out.
She's really made great gains in the high hurdles this year. She never really considered it her race. She's more of a 400-meter intermediate hurdler, but ran great at Tucson, and again last week at Stanford. Seems to be just running better every week.
Let's go downstairs now to Tom Fuhr. Tom?
Randy, the 30-minute delay, how much did it affect you in the race?
Well, the only thing it affected me was I had to try to stay warmed up for a little longer. But we were sitting down there talking, and all of us were trying to stay focused mentally. And, it started getting a little more windy and colder. But other than that, it was fine. We just always down there staying together mentally.
You have had a tremendous improvement this year from your freshman year. Great high school runner. What has been the difference?
I think I'm more determined and more dedicated. Last year I was kind of real homesick and, all that good stuff. But this year I tried to come here with a positive attitude, train harder, practice harder, all that good stuff, and it's paying off.
Great, thank you very much. We'll look for you in the 400 hurdles. Men's shot put, Ian Waltz on the left, Ben Lindsay on the right, the two big guys. But guess what? They were upstaged by this man, Joachim Olsen, even with the bad wrist. This is his throw in the 4th round. 62, 9.5, and in the big shot discus duel today, Joachim Olsen is the winner in round 1. We'll see all 3 back in the discus a little bit later.
Back to the track now in the men's 110-meter high hurdle finals. Jacob Predmore from the University of Washington, the decathlete in lane 1. Eric Dudley, lane 3 for Washington State. Ben Meyer, the fastest of the Huskies, in lane 4. Aaron Watkins, the guy to watch for Washington State, the junior out of San Jose, in lane number 6. And Dan, these guys facing the same situation the gals had just a moment ago. They had to mentally get themselves ready, get stretched, and all of a sudden hurry up and wait.
Yeah, the big delay probably hurt everybody, not only in this race, but in the race up and coming, the 400 meters as well. Aaron ran well last week. I think he's going to win this race easily if he can stay up. He crashed and burned a couple times indoors. I told him just to run smart this week, and I think that's what he's doing.
Watkins in front, being chased by a bunch of purple. Watkins gets the win, but the Huskies get some more points as they get 2nd and 3rd.
That was to be expected. Eric Dudley really needed to step up and try to break up that 2nd and 3rd, but Aaron did a good job. He held back, you can see. He should have beat these guys by probably a full hurdle length, but he held back because he hit a couple hurdles down the stretch. But the Huskies did a great job in finishing 2nd and 3rd there.
13.85 the winning time, and the winner, Aaron Watkins, is with Tom Fuhr.
Aaron, you hit a few hurdles. You had to wait 30 minutes for the race to take place, and yet you still ran 13.85. That's pretty good news, don't you think?
Well, I was trying to go around 13.6 today, but it was all right. For the conditions, we had to wait a while to run. Let's say.
Terrence Trammell is obviously the man to beat at the NCAAs this year. Is he beatable? You've run against him. What do you have to do to win at the NCAAs?
Well, indoors, he has a very good start, so I had to get out with him, and that caused me to hit the hurdle. So I just have to get a good start with him and just keep the tempo up. don't hit any hurdles. He's very beautiful.
Aaron Watkins, thank you very much. Good luck for the rest of the season, and we'll send it back up to the booth.
All righty, Tom, thank you much. You can get a feel for some of the wind that we're facing here on Flag Lane. Some other results earlier. Demetrius Murray on his last jump gets the victory, 24 2.5 inches. And Aaron Watkins just hit a home run. They have a tradition here after a race. The Cougar athletes will throw a T-shirt into the crowd, and Aaron just sailed the crowd. Looked like Wrigley Field. The ball went over to Waveland Avenue. Cecilia Thomas from the UW wins the women's shot over Shayna Ball of Idaho, who's really stepped it up. Justin St. Clair, the men's javelin over Brian Jones and Ryan Nichols of Washington State University. Francesca Sewell, who's been very busy, wins the women's high jump, 5'8" and 3/4. Kathy McNeely, basketball player, jumping as well. And in the steeplechase, Scott Johnson did a nice job to reel in Tom Hildrum with a lap and a half to go and get the win over Hildrum. Anna Aoki made it no contest as she ran very smooth to win the women's 3,000 meters. And the 4x100 relays, Washington State wins the women's as expected in kind of a walk. And on the men's side, Joe Warren Hooker leading the way for the Huskies. The men's 1,500, Jeff Perry leading a Husky sweep. Cougs, Huskies, and Vandals at Blueberry Track here in Pullman. Coming up next, the exciting 400 meters on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Pullman. Bud Namick, Dan O'Brien, Tom Fuhr. The women's 400 meters ready to go. And we've got quite a race in the center. Sharika Higgins in lane 3. Chelsea Pence from the UW in lane 4. And Janine Korus, a senior out of Moscow, Idaho, for the Vandals in lane 5. Those three in the center have run some very equal times.
Sharika is a real integral part of the sprint crew here at Washington State. We saw her running the 4x1 relay. She's running the 200, and she may run the 4x4 today as she and Chelsea Pence take it right out past Korus.
Pence, a junior out of Kitsap for the Huskies. Get a little bit of a break as they head over to that side of the track. The field house blocks the wind.
Yep, not as much. You look forward to that part of your 400-meter run. Sharika making up the stagger there. She gets about 125 meters to go. She's looking real strong at this point, but Pence is a closer. Pence is a closer, excuse me.
Higgins with a bit of a lead now. We'll see if Pence is able to close in. Huskies, though, looking like they're going to get the second and third spots as Higgins will hang on for the victory. Shut it down a bit, knowing she had it. So the Washington State women, who had a 56-21 lead coming into this event, get another first place from Sharika Higgins. There's Chelsea Pence, a junior.
Sharika's an outstanding athlete. We have a little bit of trouble getting her to really run hard in practice on occasion. But when it comes to meet, she really gives everything. She's so important to this sprint crew here at Washington State. He's probably hit the wind here as well. About 50 meters to go. The wind hits you in the face, and kind of tough to work through it, but you got to run all the way to the line.
So the Cougar women outpoint the Huskies 5-4 in that one. So Washington State now up 61-25. We're going to head down to the infield now. Our Tom Fewer standing by with a Cougar legend.
Down here with a fixture of Washington State track and field, Bernard Legat recently graduated, great indoor season, 3 victories, but now you're training for a very, very big assault on the 4x1500 meter record. Tell us about it.
Actually, that 4x1500 meter record has been there for a long time, since 1977 by the British, and we thought it's going to be a good idea if we try to attempt it this year, and that's why we are all like really training so hard for it, especially for myself. I'm training here by myself and with the help of Coach Lee, and I hope we are going to make it, and that's what I'm putting my effort right now on.
And then you've got the Kenyan Olympic trials coming up this summer, and I think everybody out there would like to know, is it going to be a straight trial with no selection, or is it going to be a combination of how the trials are done with the selection process?
It's going to be both. It's going to be the trials. Of course, everyone has to be in the trials, and then after the trials, they are going to have number 1 and number 3 basically, but it's not necessarily that number 3 is going to go. So the key point is like just go be the first 2, 1 or 2, and then if you're number 3, it's not given, because they will actually base on, let's say, the Kenyan record, all the number 3. You know, if you finish number 4 in the trials, then they have to take him, and then number 3 position has to stay. So
Bernard, thank you very much, Bernard. Good luck with the rest of the season. Go get that world record, and we look to see you in Sydney this summer. Thank you very much. Back up to Bud and Dan.
Men's 400 meter now, and Dan, this race almost marked by who is not running as opposed to who is running. Guillermo Macias unable to go due to a heel bruise for Washington State, and Adekunle Adiabi is not able to run for Idaho in this one.
Well, this is a great opportunity for the Huskies to get some more points in the sprints. Washington State's best hope there is Eric Dudley, tall dark-haired guy in the middle of the track, 400 meter. This is just his second of a 3-part series we're going to see from him. He's running 400 meter hurdles in just 20 minutes from now, which would be really an incredible feat.
How tough is it for Dudley to step in and run this race when he maybe wasn't really prepared to do so?
This race is easy for him compared to those 400 meter hurdles. He was actually looking forward to this. Pryor there on the inside with about 100 meters to go, and James Mackey in the purple on the outside. 1-2 right now, and here comes
Dudley's
Dudley.
making a move.
Dudley in the middle.
Got the long and short of it there, and Dudley might not quite have enough. Mackey able to hold him off.
No surprise there with Pryor taking it out with about 100 meters to go.
Let's go to Tom Fewer.
Very evenly matched high jump with a bunch of competitors with personal bests in the 6'10 to 6'11 range. And it ended up being Sean Steele here. You see number 134, who cleared 6'10 3/4 and certainly put himself in position to do some damage at the Pac-10 championships.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Coming up, we will have the men's and women's 100 meters. We'll be back to Newberry Field in a moment.
And welcome back to Newberry Track in Pullman, the women's 100 meters. And this is another of the events where Washington State has the decided advantage with Francesca Sewell, the senior, in lane 2, Atrina Higgins in lane 5, and LaTroya Mucker on the outside lane number 8.
We saw Atrina run earlier in the high hurdles. Very popular nowadays for women sprinters to run the high hurdles. Gail Devers set that trend.
Looked like Heather Dennis from Idaho out of the blocks too quick.
And we are under NCAA. We are under NCAA rules. It's a no false start rule. We'll see what the referee says down there about that one.
So Heather Dennis Put the sweats back on. Opens up one lane. That make it a little more difficult if you're in lane 3 or lane 5, Dan, not to have somebody running next to you?
Not in the 100 meters. You're just running a straight line, and if you were on the corner and you were inside, that person wouldn't be there. It's kind of hard to judge yourself from somebody 2 lanes away, but it shouldn't be a problem.
Fran Sewell, who's just done some amazing things in her career at Washington State. Clean start this time. Fran Sewell out quickly in lane 2. And the Cougars end up with a 1-2-3 sweep as LaTroya Mucker was able to pick up the pace down the stretch.
Well, the great thing about this sprint crew is they're almost interchangeable. Sharika Higgins just ran the 400 meters. She was tired. They put 3 people in here. It's just they got so many great sprinters at this school. Is that they can just interchange them. Here we get a good look at Trina Higgins. Good start. Can barely see Fran on the inside and LaTroya Mucker on the outside for a 1-2-3 finish.
Sharika Higgins has already qualified for the Pac-10s in the 100. Smiles abounding for the Cougars. Men's score after 7 events, Washington with a 35-24 lead over Washington State. Cougs are leading Idaho by 4. And let's take a look at the women's scores. After 9 events, Washington State in command as expected against the Huskies. Cougs trying to make it 3 in a row over the Huskies. And the Cougs in command against the Idaho Vandals as well. Time now for the men's 100 meters, and we get another look at Warren Hooker, the outstanding sprinter for the Huskies out of Ellensburg, Washington. He'll run in lane 6. Best for the Cougs is Anson Henry running in lane 5. Henry with a 10.81 earlier this year, while Jawarn with a 10.18. And Hooker definitely the guy to beat. Dan, Jawarn Hooker's tried to play football at the University of Washington as well. Is he a good enough athlete to play both sports, or could he be a better sprinter if he concentrated on track?
Well, I think he could definitely be a better sprinter. I think really specialization is the key as we get, into the year 2000 for any individual, because there's so many guys out there working hard, and for the time that he puts in playing football, there's going to be another sprinter out there using all that same amount of time concentrating on his sprinting and his technique and his strength work. So I think Jawarn could really be a great sprinter, but it's tough to say because there are a lot of great sprinters here in the United States.
Hooker did not play football a year ago to concentrate on getting ready for the Olympics. As you take a look at Anson Henry for Washington State.
Anson's really trying to make some breakthroughs here in these weeks coming up. He had a hamstring injury at the very end of the indoor season, and he's running better every week. I just hope he doesn't try to press it here too soon and re-injure himself. I look to see Anson running maybe the 10.6, 10.7 range today.
Canadian who came south of the border to run at Washington State.
Get a shot at Larry Williams there.
How's the rest of this race shape up in terms of points for these men's teams? Do the Huskies have a chance to do some big damage here?
They really do. It really all depends. Again, there's a lot of guys out there running for 3rd and 4th, and those are the guys who are really having this battle. I see Jawarn running away with it. Anson probably a solid 2nd, but the rest of the field is wide open. Alex Tinsley, a Washington State football player, is in this heat as well.
Tinsley running out of lane number 8. Another Idaho athlete is scratched in lane 4. The Vandals choosing to leave a couple of folks out of competition. Hooker off clean. Looks like he's running very smooth. It's a bit of a surprise. Greg Forney might have got 2nd for Washington.
Yep. They needed that one. Talked to Jawarn earlier. He says he's going to have just do what it took to get the points for the Huskies today, and that was pretty easy right there. Nothing special. He didn't really power out of the blocks like he did. He didn't really power out of the blocks like he did last week at Stanford, but a smooth race nonetheless.
And let's hear from the winner, Warren Hooker with Tom Fewer.
Warren, you had a heck of a headwind just before the gun went off, and I noticed you're in your tights. Are you a little worried about the hamstring, and how much did the wind affect you?
I wasn't really concerned about the hamstring. I wasn't really thinking about the win. I just wanted to go out and just win the race. Whatever time, it really didn't matter. I just wanted to win.
We're talking to your coach, who's now Lee Evans, and I have a question for you. He had intimated that you might be running the 400. Are we going to see you at least run the 4x4 today later on?
No, I'm probably not going to run the 4x4 later on today, but next week I think I'm going to run the 4 at Cal.
Very good. And what do you expect to do there?
I plan to run pretty good. I mean, we've been training for the 4 and stuff, and, you know, my first shot out, I got to run a good one, so I think it'll be pretty good.
Excellent. Well, Warren, congratulations. We'll see you a little bit later in the 200, and we'll send it back up to the booth.
Thank you.
All righty, Tom, thank you much. Still plenty of action yet to come. The 800 meters from Blueberry Track next on Fox Sports Net. Blueberry Track in Pullman, the home of the Washington State Cougars. Bud Namick along with Dan O'Brien, Tom Fewer, and we are underway now. The women's 800 meter. And this is an event that we expect Washington State to do very well in. You look at the times, and the Cougars have the distinct advantages over the Huskies, with Washington State led by Alicia Buderbaugh. Ran 2:05.66. She needs to pick that up by about a half a second to be qualified automatically for the NCAA.
She got the provisional time, and last week, if you can imagine, she ran 2:05, but she was third in that race. The other two competitors were Olympic development athletes, but she just looked fantastic, and that's a big personal best for her.
She ran well during the indoor season as well, but kind of got victimized by some people really stepping up at the indoor championships.
But when you go to the NCAA indoors, Coach Sloan, all he ever asks is that you do what you did to get there. And I think the qualifications were probably 207 or 208. She got there and ran right around that area. And a lot of people did step up, and I think she finished 7th or 8th there.
Washington State women's team in the lead in this battle today against Washington and Idaho. And the Cougs looking to add some points here. They're running 1-2 in the women's 800 meters right now.
Coach James Lee does an excellent job with all of these people.
Lisa Shores already qualified for the Pac-10s with a time of 2 minutes 10 seconds for Washington State.
Let's see if she's going to make a little move on Alicia Buderbaugh right now. She looks like she's got her head back a little, like she's struggling, but be a big confidence builder if she could come up beside Alicia here.
Still got about a 5-yard differential as Buderbaugh and Shores going to make it 1-2 for Washington State. Huskies will finish 3rd and 4th. Margaret Butler leading the way across the finish line for the Huskies. There you see Tom Fewer getting ready to go to work already. And Tom is downstairs with the winner, Alicia Buderbaugh, a sip of water and an interview with Tom Fewer.
Hey, Alicia, it looked like you were fairly comfortable there. 64-second first lap. Did you kind of back off a little bit because you know you got the 1500 a little bit later today?
Actually, I was just trying to take it easy. With such a delay in the race, I felt like I wasn't as warm as I usually am, so just take it a little easy. I don't know if to hold back for the 15 or just for my own personal. warmness.
Well, you've got a personal best of 4:38 that would seem to be very vulnerable today in the 1500. Is that more of your focus for this afternoon?
Actually, I'd like to go in and try to be competitive in the 15. Try to get some points in that event. But I think more than anything, this meets more of a conditioning and trying to get ready for some bigger meets.
Well, you sure have started the season off great. That 2:05 at the Stanford Invitational was a real shot across the bow. Must have been a big confidence builder for you.
Yeah, it was definitely a confidence builder. Coming out of the indoor national meet, I was feeling kind of down. My time in my race wasn't what I had expected it to be. So I just went into that race with some big guns and just did what I could do. So I'm re-evaluating my goals for the season, and hopefully it'll be a big season.
Well, great. We're look for you at the 1500 meters. Thank you very much. Warm down, and we'll send it back up to the booth. Thanks.
All righty, Tom, thank you. Sports Geniuses, a lot of fun. Weeknights 6 and 11 on Fox Sports Net, the new nightly game show that will challenge the most knowledgeable of sports fans. Sports Geniuses, weeknights at 6 and 11 on Fox Sports Net. Time to move on now to the men's 800 meters. Saw a good look at Simon Kamau, the top entrant for Washington State. He'll battle Jeff Perry, the senior out of Gig Harbor, for the Huskies. And Dan, probably just a battle between those two, we'd anticipate, Perry and Kamau.
Well, their early season times would indicate that, but you never know, especially on a windy day like today. And this is probably one of the more brutal races on a windy day because you got to battle that wind coming around the first turn twice, and you're not doing it running slowly.
Jason Cadman out early for Washington as well as they make the turn down by the scoreboard end near the football stadium with the wind blocked a little bit by the field house. Simon Kamau leading the way for Washington State. Ran a 1:54.33, his best effort so far. Jacob Hazelquist in there for the Cougars as well.
Matt Cram and Eric Fredrickson, a couple Idaho guys you see in the black uniforms there.
Let the bell off. Simon Kamau, Washington State in the lead.
If Washington State is going to make a run at the Huskies at all in this team scoring today, they're going to have to go 1-2 here. And now looks like Hazelquist struggling a little bit. The Huskies looking like they are going to take command a bit as Mr. Perry makes his move. All-American a couple of years ago.
Kamau seems to be responding on the inside just a little bit there. He's not going to let him get away from him that easy.
Simon battling, trying to keep the other purple and white Huskies on his hip. Running out of gas, Simon Kamau. Say, John Russell has really done a nice job in a couple of events for the Huskies today, and the Huskies get the sweep in the 800 meters. And a sweep in the 1500 as well. So Orrin Richmond's Huskies faring very well today, and they've proven themselves to be a very strong dual team.
That's where you missed the Kipling out of last year.
Go downstairs to Tom Fuhr and see if Mr. Perry has any breath left to talk.
Jeff, you've got to be a pretty good teammate. You led a 1-2-3 sweep in both the 1500, 800, and you showed some tremendous tactical judgment in both races. Are you in the shape of your life right now?
I don't know. I mean, I've run pretty well. Workout's going well, and my job today was just go out and win races, and that's all I wanted to do. And teammates are running great. Just feeding right off me, and great.
Did you run both races with the idea to try to get the 9-0 sweep? Because you really seemed like you were helping your teammates along, including John Russell.
Well, we were planning on we knew we had the ability to go out and go 1, 2, 3. I mean, we got great guys, John and Jason Fayant, and those guys are going to come out and run strong. Mike Hill ran a good race too in the 15, and I mean, we knew we had the guys to go do it, and that was the plan, and everyone did what they were supposed to do.
Both events at Pac-10?
I have no idea. We have no idea.
Well, congratulations, 18 points in 2 events through your leadership, and we'll send it back up to the booth. Jeff Perry, thank you.
So Jeff Perry leads the sweep for the Dogs. Women's triple jump. Cicely Klinkenbeard leads the way for the Cougs. Francesca Sewell second. Katie Kress of Idaho third. In the women's discus, Katja Schreiber of Idaho The winner, Siren Salabian of the University of Washington, second, and Andrea Thornton of Washington State, third. More to come. Let's go hurdling, the 400 hurdles, when we come back on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Pullman. Time now for the women's 400-meter hurdles. The race Dan O'Brien says isn't fun because you jump out of the blocks and get a blast of wind in your face to get things started. We'll see Randy Smith again for Washington State. She'll be running out of lane 6. Kelsey Shepard, her main competitor for the Huskies, running in lane 7. Smith and Shepard. And just not a lot of fun, Dan, to pop out of those blocks and get hit by that wind.
Oh, that's where it's blowing the hardest, too, right on this first turn. Get a good look at Kelsey Shepard there. 59.55 last week at Stanford. Randy Smith also had a big personal best last week.
57.61.
That's right. We even got a little bit of, here at Washington State, we even got a little, we got a PR out of Autumn Wood, who ran 61 seconds.
Washington State women comfortably in the lead in the dual meet, scoring at this point. Husky men leading on the men's side.
Keep an eye on that first set of hurdles. You can always tell who's ahead by who comes off those hurdles first. You don't really watch the race as it develops. You watch those hurdles to see who's touching down first.
Again, Smith in lane 6, Shepard in lane 7, the favorites in this one. And Randy Smith off to a quick start for Washington State.
Well, Randy Smith, coached by former intermediate hurdler Mark McDonald from Washington State here. So he really knows what he's talking about when it comes to coaching this event.
Smith and Shepard really, as we expect, setting the pace. .57.5 is the NCAA automatic qualifier time. Smith 57.61 at Stanford a week ago. Randy has the lead with a couple of hurdles to go. Randy Smith for Washington State, Kelsey Shepard for the Huskies. Battle for third. Looks like it'll go to Siobhan Hawkins.
Another good race for Randy Smith there. Looks like 58.10 unofficially.
Not bad in this wind. Let's take a look at the team scoring now after 12 events on the men's side. Washington controlling things 60-35 over Washington State. Cougars lead Idaho 58-36. Let's go to the women's scores now. After 12 events, Washington State in command on their way to their third straight win over the Huskies, 78-26, and the Cougars lead Idaho 80-24. There's a check of your team scoring.
Down here with Dan O'Brien, and while I'm not wearing the Olympians tie, and you are, I think the big question on everybody's minds is, what is the state of Dan O'Brien?
Well, I feel really good right now. I've been back in Pullman here training with Coach Sloan for the last month. My field events are coming along. I feel good about everything. You know, my main concern now is fitness, and I'm running, 3 or 4 times a week, and my fitness is coming back at a very strong pace.
Dan, you had a surgery called a debridement, which in fact I've had on my knee before. Can you take us through how long you had to lay out completely from training and how you've been able to come back?
Well, it was a long layoff. Right after the surgery, I really didn't do anything for probably 2 solid months, and then I started rehab, and the rehab process was really the most incredible, painstaking thing I've ever had to do in my life. Way harder than training, and now I'm just starting to feel normal again. Oh, here we are 7 months later.
Now, we're in April.
Yes.
The Olympic trials are in July. When are we going to see you in competition again?
I should race in the next 3 to 4 weeks, probably open up with some hurdle races, throw some discus and shot put and things like that. And then as I get into May, I'll compete at the Modesto relays. Hopefully I'll be ready to do something at the Prefontaine meet, and then look for competitions through the month of June, early July. And I'm glad that the trials are later this year because I can concentrate a little more on my training.
Now, were there any events not involving your legs that in fact are better because of the amount of work you've been able to do?
Well, I think, no particular event stands out in my mind. I'm very fit because I was riding a lot of bike and running on the treadmill and things like that. But more, I feel mentally refreshed. I come out here and I'm hungry to work out every single day. And I couldn't say that in 97. And even in 1999, I didn't feel that hunger that I felt clear back in 95 and 96. But I feel good now.
Well, I think it's truly going to be one of the great stories to follow during the course of the year, and it should be a tremendous decathlon competition with you and Tomas Dvorak at the Olympic Games.
I look forward to it.
Good to know things are going well for my partner here. Gearing up for a big summer. Ready now for the men's 400-meter hurdles. About every 35 meters, you have to go 36 inches off the ground. Paul Summer from Washington State, lane 1. Jacob Predmore for the UW in lane 2. Dustin Erickson, Idaho, in lane 3. Eric Dudley, Washington State, lane 4. Ben Meyer of the UW, lane 5. Should be an interesting matchup between Meyer and Dwyer from Washington State, lane 6. And then Josh Renz in lane 7. Dudley with the best time of the group so far. He's already qualified for the Pac-10s with a 51.64, pretty close to the NCAA provisional time. Meyer and Dwyer ought to be a pretty good battle for second.
Yeah, and then you got Jacob Predmore in lane 2, so kind of a battle of decathletes there with Steve Dwyer out in lane 6. And catch this, Dustin Erickson from the University of Idaho is a walk-on decathlete. He simply goes by the name of Madness.
Madness, huh?
Yep.
We'll see how Madness is able to do here. Lane 3. Clean start, we're off and running. Again, Dudley in lane 4, the guy to keep your eyes on in the crimson and gray of Washington State.
Ben Meyer really taking it out. He's ahead of Dudley right now by 3 or 4 meters. Going to make Dudley work, but remember, this is Dudley's third race in about 40 minutes. He ran the high hurdles, then he ran the open 4, and he's coming back to run the 400-meter hurdles. I don't know if this is an experiment that Mark McDonald's going to be successful on or not.
Dudley, a pretty tall guy. Does that help or hurt him in a race of this nature?
What really helps him, because you need to hit so many strides in between each hurdle. But Meyer and Predmore both manhandling Dudley right now, but here he comes.
And he will catch Predmore, will not catch Meyer.
Dudley has a tendency to run conservative in the early part of the race. He really came on strong, but that was just definitely fatigue from the 400 meters.
Dudley, a quick handshake with Ben Meyer, so Meyer gets the points for the Huskies. Let's check in again with Tom Fuhr.
This is Ian Waltz from Washington State, third earlier in the shot put, and as expected, the winds coming in are helping in this discus throw. He went 194 in the first round, and then that throw, 194.11, he has moved into the lead. And now, following him in the throwing order, his good friend Ben Lindsay. This 30-second competition between the two of them. Lindsay earlier second in the shot put, a little wobbly there on his release in the discus. He improves on his second round throw to 187.5. They're 1 and 2. Right now, Joachim Olsen is buried well back. Now, when we come back to Movery Field, we will have the 200-meter finals for women.
Sunny spring day in Pullman, Newberry. Track is Washington State, Washington, and Idaho are competing today. Weeknight, 7 o'clock. Don't miss Northwest Sports Tonight. Tom Glasgow is your host for the most in-depth local sports news around. The latest on M's baseball, the opening homestand with Boston and New York in town. The Sonics getting ready for the playoffs. The Blazers as well, and much more. Northwest Sports Tonight. Weeknights at 7 Pacific time on Fox Sports Net. Our next event here is the women's 200 meters. And again, Washington State with the class of the field in this one. Chelsea Pence from Washington ought to be in the hunt as well. Trina Higgins will run out of lane 1 for Washington State. Jamara Smith out of lane 2 for the UW. Heather Dennis from Idaho, lane 3. LaTroya Mucker for the Cougs in lane 4. Chelsea Pence in lane 5 from Washington. Catherine Dallas, Idaho in lane 6. And lane 7, Sharika Higgins, Washington State, and Zia Garro from Washington in lane number 8. Higgins, the best time coming into this group, 23.97, followed by Pence and Mucker. All three have qualified for the Pac-10s already.
Sharika's taking it out early there in lane 7, but we'll see if that 400 meters fatigue her. And we just saw LaTroya Mucker stop, grabbing her hamstring a little bit. Look, maybe a cramp.
Higgins with the advantage as we come to the finish line of the 200. Higgins solidly a victor.
23.93.
Chelsea Pence
unofficially.
Second.
That's an excellent time for the conditions today.
And obviously a big concern for Washington State, the hamstring of LaTroya Mucker. She's being attended to at the end of the track where she dropped out of the race.
Here we see him come down to the 100-meter straight. Sharika made up that stagger in about 80 meters. Get a good shot of Chelsea Pence there in the middle of your screen. But Sharika seems to be running better every single weekend. She ran well at Stanford and very close to the same time today.
There is LaTroya Mucker being attended to. So she was able to pull up quick enough.
Well, she's somebody that the Washington State Cougars really need for that 4x1 relay and maybe even that 4x4 relay if they need her down the stretch.
Doesn't look like she's doing too bad right now, but we'll see. Now let's go down to the infield to Tom Fuhr.
Here with a true American sporting legend, not just in track and field, but completely across the sporting spectrum. Lee Evans, you've been coaching outside of the U.S. for over 30 years, it seems. Africa, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. What brings you back and what brings you to the University of Washington?
Well, you know, I have grandchildren out here in the Tacoma, Seattle area. I wanted to be close to them, and I decided that it was time to come back, and I was fortunate enough to be able to get a job at the University of Washington with Coach Richburg, so I'm glad to be back.
Now, you ran 43.86, which was a world record that stood until Butch Reynolds broke it in 1988, so it stood for 20 years. And just recently, a few days ago, Michael Johnson ran 43.9 early season, but there are not that many 400-meter runners that ran what Lee Evans ran way back then. Can you explain why?
Well, you know, I was pretty good, you know. I was very talented, I think. You know, I could run 800 meters in 1:48. I could run 200 meters in 20.4. And then the 400 meters was a natural for me to run a world-class time like I was. I was very competitive. I only lost a few races my whole career. And a person like Michael Johnson, and with today's aerogenics, I'm not surprised he's not running 42. Because I think that if I was running today, I could run 42 with the aerogenics that the athletes have to help them to run faster today.
Now, you've got a young colt by the name of Jawarren Hooker, who had a tremendous freshman year, a very disappointing sophomore year. He's come out of the blocks tremendous this season. What has been the difference? Has it been your coaching?
Well, I just got there about 3 months ago, but so it's not all my help. I got him running, you know, some 500s in training, just like Michael Johnson does. Michael Johnson's not lazy, and I think the guys have to understand it takes hard work, but when you put the hard work in, it's easy. You can do anything you want to do off that. And so we have Jawarren running more 500-meter runs in training. He's doing a lot of 300s, so he's going to be stronger. He'll be faster this year. He's not close to running what he will run. You know, he hopes to run the Olympic trials, of course, in both the 400 and the 200. So it's going to take a little bit of hard work to get there. So for him to be running 10-1 in the 100 meters now with 400-meter training, it shows you how fast he will run later in the summer.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how Jawarren does. It's great to have you back in the on American soil and coaching. Lee Evans, thank you very much.
There's Jawarren Hooker, and he is obviously not preparing to run the 200 meters. Maybe everybody knew something, Dan. We saw a lot of people leave after he won the 100, and maybe they knew he wasn't going to run the 200.
Well, that's pretty smart. You know, they've got such a big team lead right now. He's got real important races coming up, and it is very, very cool and just keeps getting cooler today. So, you know, I might give the nod to Anson Henry a little bit here today, but, you know, Greg Forney's pretty solid as well as Aguilera from Idaho.
Sherwin James from Idaho running pretty well as well. Guillermo Macias from Washington State originally entered in this, unable to go due to the heel bruise that he has. So this one is open. Let's see what happens. Clean start, half the length of the track. Aguilera of Idaho out quickly. We saw him run very well in the relay earlier. James Mackey of Washington, who stepped in place of Jawarn Hooker with a strong run.
You see a lot of that in dual meet competition. You pull somebody out, put somebody else in, just because they need the work. It's late in the meet, and I'm sure Mackey needed all the strength work he could get, and that was a good run for him.
Take a look as they come around the corner.
He had a nice lead with about 100 meters to go, and Mackey was sneaking up on him on the outside.
Take a look at the lean at the tape.
Anthony Henry really let up there with about 10 meters to go. I hope he's all right. He's getting better every week, and hopefully he can just stay healthy.
21:74, officially the winning time. We'll be back to Pullman. The 1,500 meters coming up next. Time now for the women's 1,500 meters back here in Pullman. Newberry track just underway. Margaret Butler from the University of Washington and Cammie Matson from Washington. Top two times coming into this one. Alicia Buderbaugh running for Washington State along with Greta Johnson. Washington State in command of the team race, and Cougs looking to pick up their 6th win ever against the Huskies. Huskies have dominated this series 18-6. The Husky men are going to get a win here today and get their 31st win ever against the Cougar men. Washington State's prevailed 53 times. They got together on the track in 1900 for the very first time. Cougs and Huskies.
Andrea Lamont took an early lead there. University of Idaho in the black on the rail.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how Alicia Buderbaugh does, because there's going to be some good competition in here. Cara Serdal, who ran 16:45 for 5,000 last week at Stanford. Not a bad performance there. And you've got Cammie Matson, both who are pretty decent middle distance runners, and Buderbaugh just ran probably not more than a half hour ago. So it's going to be a very interesting race. Now, thankfully, the wind has died down a little bit here, and it may be one of the warmer points of the day for this time period. So it's going to be interesting from a tactical standpoint to see how this thing breaks out.
Tom, if you run the 800, should you always be able to run the 1,500, or are there just some 800-meter runners who just can't run the mile?
I think, Dan, in most cases, it's very difficult to make the 800, 1,500 double. I think it's actually easier for the 400, 800, or 400 hurdles 800 double. I think it's extraordinarily difficult to make that transition up to 1,500 for most really good 800-meter runners. But I'm talking about people that are like you, world class, and not necessarily the collegiate athletes.
Because I can't ever imagine Michael Johnson running a half mile, but I could imagine somebody like Butch Reynolds running a half mile.
Well, and you had Alberto Wantarena, who won the 400 and 800. I mean, I think years ago the 800, 1,500 double was a lot easier. But I think nowadays, if you look at the best 1,500-meter runners in the world, like Hisham El Garouj, they would be also rans in a top flight 800. They're just that many good 800-meter runners.
Andrea Lamont from Idaho still up front. We run the 1,500 meters. Jamie Stone from Idaho up there as well. Washington State runners hanging in the back.
You know, if this pace continues, and they're coming up right now to the 800-meter mark, which is being hit at 2:32. In other words, they're crawling out here. That plays right into Buderbaugh's hands, because of anybody in this field, she's going to have the best kick, and she realizes that now. She's going to cover that move.
I had an opportunity earlier today to talk to Coach James Lee, and I asked him what the theory was behind running her in the 1,500. I said, was it because you wanted to get the points? And he said, not really. He didn't think that they were going to need him at this point, but she just needed a little more. She just needed a little more work.
Well, Dan, to be frank with you, the 800 and 1500 on a national level, the NCAA's this year is very weak by comparison to earlier years. You know, she's running 205 at Stanford, and you know, you're probably going to be able to win NCAA at 201 or 202. She's not that far away, and I think it's going to be this kind of work is going to help her to really get the strength that she's going to need. Now, this is Susan Werner of Washington that's kind of trying to break this thing open a little bit, but Buddha looks good. They're running just by me right now. She covered that move nicely, and she should be able to kick here at the end.
Warner with about a 4-step lead right now over Alicia Buderbaugh. See the split of 3:29.29.
It's Greta Johnson in third for the Cougars.
And they went through 1200 and 3:47. So again, this is a pace, and here goes Buderbaugh now. This is a really pedestrian pace, and she should be able to make hay out of this field right now.
About 200 meters to go.
Well, she said she wanted to be competitive, and she's being very competitive.
Dan, I've noticed a difference in the last year where she's got a much faster tempo on her strides now. She used to overstride quite a bit, and somebody's been working with her to really create a much faster tempo, and that's really gonna pay off in a big way this year for her.
Alicia Buderbaugh with a 4:39 best in the 1500 meters. And looks like she's going to be just slightly behind that here today. 4:39.15 actually.
If she hadn't slowed up at the end, she might have run a personal best there.
Men's 5,000 meters up next. David Bozzi, the class of the field from Washington, had a school record earlier this year, 13 minutes 47.63 seconds. Running out of the number 2 spot, David Bozzi. Already qualified. Great run last week down at Stanford.
I don't think you can cut it any closer than that. He ran 13:47.63. The automatic qualifying was 13:48. He must have been running for his life the last 50 meters.
And he made it. He's got a little smile on his face as he gets ready to go. Washington State will send John Welsh and Oscar Franco Para, Mark Wicklander to the line as well. Washington with David Schruth and Ben Coors out there as well. Dan Bartos, Jan Idle for the Idaho Vandals. And we're about ready to get the longest race of the day underway.
These are really ideal running conditions. The wind has died down quite a bit. Balmy 60 degrees. Couldn't ask for a really better temperature for long distance running.
All right, we'll see as we get the pace set in the early going by David Bozzi. He'll strive for the wire-to-wire win in this one. Let's take a look at results from some other events today. The men's shot put. Joaquim Olson of Idaho gets the victory in a very competitive affair. Ben Lindsay from UW second. Ian Waltz, Washington State third. Men's 110 hurdles. Aaron Watkins, the winner for Washington State. Ben Meyer, Jacob Predmore following it up for the Huskies. Men's high jump, Sean Steele from the UW, 6'10 3/4. Matt Alverson, Ezra Gordon for Washington State, second and third. Women's 400 meters, Sharika Higgins, who showed you her victory. Chelsea Pence, second. Letitia Moore for the Huskies was third. The men's 400 meter, Derek Pryor from the UW, James Mackey from the UW, and then Eric Dudley finishing third for Washington State. Take a look at now the 100 meters. Francesca Sewell, 11.94 to win it for Washington State over her teammates Atrina Higgins and LaTroya Mucker. And in the men's 100, as expected, Jawarren Hooker, 10.45. Marwan Masad from Idaho second. Greg Forney from the UW finishes third. Still to come, the relays, and we will show you the finish of the men's 5,000 meters. From Pullman, also a very competitive men's discus. Welcome back to Pullman. About a lap and a half left to go in the men's 5,000 meters. And during this entire race, it has been Oscar Franco Parra from Washington State and David Bozzi from Washington running side by side. Now David Bozzi is stretched out to a fairly comfortable lead. And he is not going to challenge his time of earlier this year where he qualified for the NCAAs with a 13:47.63, but under these conditions he'll be very happy just to get the victory for Washington.
Well, that was real smart of him to run with somebody that whole way, and kind of tough to do it by yourself. But here, you know, with just over about a lap and a half to go, he just took off. It was a great effort on Oscar's part.
So David Bozzi is going to get a wire-to-wire victory in the 5,000. That's not an easy thing to do.
No, running these 5,000s in a dual meet situation is very difficult, especially when you're out there by yourself week after week. You run across the ducks, he's going to get some competition there, and go down to Stanford. You make those 5,000s a little more exciting for him.
This is an event that's tougher for you now, even with the knee?
Yeah, I don't run 5,000 too often. Actually, the sprinting doesn't bother my knee at all. A lot of the long distance running that I do on the road is a little bit irritating, but it's getting better every week, and I imagine here in the next couple of weeks I'll have pretty much zero pain.
You don't even run a 5,000 to train, huh? Just make that
On occasion.
1,500 a little easier?
On occasion, I'll get out and run a 5 or a 7K. Probably once a week I'll get in for a 4 or 5 mile run.
So David Bozzi with the wire-to-wire victory in the 5,000. 14 minutes, 48.93 seconds. Oscar Franco Parra for Washington State will finish second. And third still to be determined as we're a ways away. Let's go down to Tom Fuhr.
The wind has died down in the discus, and this is Ian Waltz now in his 6th round attempt. He threw it to 194.11 in the 2nd round. That has held up. He did his best here, 182.1, and he wins it. Ben Lindsay takes 2nd. Joachim Olsen finished 6th after winning the shot put with 168.11.
Let's take a look at the women's scoring as we near the end of this meet. Washington State with a 102-38 lead over the Washington Huskies, and between Washington State and Idaho, it's the Cougs 107, the Vandals 33. Ready now for the women's 4x400 meter relay. Washington State going with Randy Smith, Heidi Abersfeller, Lisa Shores, and Autumn Wood. Huskies have entered Letitia Moore, Kelsey Shepard, Chelsea Pence, and Asya Muhammad. Idaho with Brenda Knipp, Debbie Ogden, Catherine Dallas, and Janine Corus.
Coach Sloan will never admit it, but he loves triple figures on those scores. 102, he's going to be happy with that.
Entrants have changed a little bit for Washington State, especially since they are in command.
Randy Smith, a lot of races today. She's ultra tough. Always the first one.
Long strides, already making up a stagger.
She's always the first one to volunteer for this 4x400 meter relay, even if they don't need her.
She'll hand it off to Heidi Abersfeller out of Kennewick.
First leg runners go in their lanes for the entire lap around the track. She hands off to the second runners. They'll run the first turn in lanes, and then they'll break to the inside.
Nice 400 by Randy Smith to complete her day's work. Here goes Heidi Abersfeller for Washington State. Kelsey Shepard on her way for the Huskies, and Debbie Ogden for the Idaho Vandals.
53.49. It's an excellent 400 meter time for Randy Smith and her split.
Debbie Ogden making a move for the Vandals now.
She really did. About 50 meters. She made up 15 meters.
Lisa Shores will be the third runner for Washington State.
Nice job, Heidi!
Chelsea Pence for the Huskies. Catherine Dallas for Idaho. Things get a little tighter now.
Here come the Huskies on the outside now.
Abersfeller running out of gas down the stretch here. Lisa Shores can do for Washington State.
Pretty classic tactically for coaches to throw your 800-meter runners in the 4x4 relay because they do have a lot of strength. And this is an easy race. After you run those half miles and those mile races, the 400 meters is fairly easy. I remember Kip Lagat used to just eat this up. He could run down anybody.
Chelsea Pence doing a great job for the Huskies. She makes the turn and heads for home. Gets ready to hand off to Asia Mohammed on the anchor leg for the Huskies.
I love the 4x4 relay because it makes you feel like you're running in practice, because in practice everybody runs in lane 1 and lane 2. You run right next to each other and you don't really have to stay in your lanes.
Autumn Wood out of Meade High School in Spokane running the anchor leg for Washington State. And Janine Chorus for the Idaho Vandals. As things have stretched out, the Huskies are in control in this race.
I remember when I was at the University of Idaho, Coach Keller used this 4x400 meter relay. It was, sometimes it's torture for not having a very good meet. If we got beat up by somebody, boy, he was throwing all his best guys on that relay saying, let's get some work in.
Come on, Autumn.
A little bit of punishment.
Get your attention. Huh?
Yeah.
Actually, the Huskies changed up their order a little bit. This is Kelsey Shepard running the anchor leg. And getting the victory for the Huskies. Autumn Wood coming across for Washington State. Coming up weeknights at 6:30 and 11:30. Get set for the last word. Your host, Jim Rome, tells it like it is on the Nightline of sports talk shows. Everybody tunes in to see what Rome has to say. Athletes listen in to say what Rome's saying about them. Rome interviews the biggest names in sports and asks what everybody wants to know. Weeknights at 6:30 and 11:30 Pacific on Fox Sports Net. The men's relay coming up to wrap things up for Pullman. Let's take a look at the team scoring now after 17 events as we near the end. Washington getting into those triple digits, 101-57 over Washington State. Cougars leading the Vandals, I should say, 103-53. So the Huskies with a pretty impressive start to the dual meet season, Dan O'Brien.
They've got a lot of depth, leading it off with Jawarren Hooker in the sprints.
4x400 meter relay, and we've had some changes. James Mackey, Jacob Predmore, Greg Forney, Derek Pryor set to run for Washington. And we are underway. Cougs with Josh Fitzhugh, Paul Summer, Jacob Hazelquist, and Chad Randall. Not sure if we're going to see Tawanda Chiwira for the Idaho Vandals or not.
Actually, we are going to see Tawanda Chiwira, and we are going to see Adenkunle Adejubi, who has been on a lot of start lists today, but we haven't seen him run yet. He'll be running second leg for the Idaho Vandals. This is going to be a tough Vandal team to beat. Although Mackey's taking it to him right now for the Huskies in lane 3.
Mackey's had a big day. He's run well.
Lane 4, excuse me. Another guy just getting a lot of 400 meter work in.
Huskies with a B team running as well. It's Bevan Bryan running the first leg. Mackey hands it off to Greg Forney, Jacob Predmore. Forney will run the third leg.
Let's see if Adejubi can run down Predmore here. He should be able to. He's got an excellent 400 meter time. That's a personal best indoors and outdoors.
Making up some ground right now. Anakunle about ready to catch the Huskies and move down the stretch.
Predmore got the strength of 400-meter hurdles, though.
Errol Aguilera takes the handoff, and he's off and running for the Vandals. Greg Forney out there for the Huskies. Jacob Hazelquist in third for Washington State right now.
Aguilera's looking great at this point. Nice and smooth.
Aguilera stretching it out. Vandals looking very good in the 4x400 relay.
And oh, what a treat coming up next. We got Tawanda Chiwira running the anchor leg for the Vandals.
He's waving Aguilera, saying, come on, let's go.
There'll be no catching Chiwira. Let's just see what that final split would be.
And there goes Tawanda. And Derek Pryor for the Huskies giving chase. We're stretching it out. It's that baton high.
He's a really full motion when it comes to his running, and he runs this way for the entire time. 400 meters, 200 meters, 100, it doesn't matter. Arms a-flailing. The running's not a beauty contest now, is it?
Going to turn in a pretty decent time, this Vandal sprint team. Chiwira across the stripe, 3:11.28 for the Idaho Vandals.
I had Tawanda Chiwira at a 45:23 anchor relay lane. Excellent time.
Nice bit of work. The Vandals capture the men's 4x400 relay. Take a look at some other results from today's action. As Tawanda takes a little break, the women's 800 meters. Alicia Buterbaugh, a win over her teammate Lisa Shores. Margaret Butler finishing third for the University of Washington. Men's 800, Jeff Perry leading a Husky sweep. John Russell ran well today for the Dogs. We'll be back to Pullman in a moment. The Blueberry Track, where the Huskies have defeated the Cougars in men's action.